I'd like to welcome our final presenter of the day, Frankie Russo. He is the founder and CEO at Russo Capital. I'll ask him to turn on his camera and hand him over the virtual floor. Frankie, take it away.
All right. Well, that was anticlimactic.
Frankie Russo, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit better. There it is. Okay. All yours.
Okay, buddy. Okay, good stuff. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I am really excited to share with you guys. And honestly, the last three speakers were absolutely insightful for me. I come from a little bit different background, but the same. I'm more of the founder visionary side of things. And so I wanted to kind of end the this webinar with a little insight from that. And everything that over the last 2 decades for me has really helped me on my journey is this concept of starting with the end in mind. Now, the thing about starting with the end in mind is that we don't really know how it will end, but we have to at least try to estimate that, right? Or we have to have something that we're moving towards. For all of us that have been in this for longer than 2 days, we know that it's a journey that is always shifting. And one of the most important things, and I'll talk a little bit about this today, is this concept of being able to shift with it and how you as an individual ride that wave and not be completely miserable. A little bit about me. So I am an 8-time Inc. 500 entrepreneur. What that means is I was on the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in America 8 times in a row. And I'm also the author of 2 best-selling books. And currently, after exiting from a couple of my technology products, I am an investor in the private equity space. So at the end of the day, one of the things that is really my passion and my focus is helping the products that I work with, as well as other people, to really dig into why am I even building the technology to begin with. So one of the beliefs that I have is that everyone's why or their purpose is the same universally as a human, but it's our passion that helps us really understand which lane or which road we should be on with that purpose. Ultimately, purpose is about helping others. It's about helping people with where they're at. And sometimes that's from a monetary standpoint. Sometimes it's from a different type of value. But ultimately, as it relates to product development, and as we are either in starting on a new product, we're in the middle of a product, or in my case, I just exited on a product. And the fact is that in each scenario, I have to daily come back to ask myself the question of, why am I building this? Simple questions like, what problems does this even solve? Because I know that sometimes for me, it's easy to get really lost in that. A friend of mine, Alex, is a CTO, and he went through this really the hard way. He jumped in and was super excited about his new product and hired the teams and got to running down the road. And after building the product, it was a couple of people have mentioned this today. This idea that you come out with it, it's all done, and all of a sudden you realize nobody cares, or it doesn't really solve problems because we didn't take that step back. And like in Alex's case, he didn't spend enough time really digging into the why and using that as an opportunity to do the research with people. The thing about software is that it has to be practical. A lot of people have touched on that today. And the practical part is it simple? Can I understand it? Will this actually help me? And I find that there's only one way to really understand that, and that's to solve a problem that we've already experienced, and experienced with more than just ourselves. One of the things that I think it was Jasper had mentioned was this concept of at least this product solves a problem for me. And obviously, as product designers and developers, as we move forward, we don't want that to be the case where it's just a good product for ourselves, but it should be a good product for ourselves, and we should use our own products. At the end of the day, though, the experience and understanding what the problem is that we're solving has to come from one of two places. It either comes from my own experience in an industry with multiple types of people, or enough research from a good sample size to help us all have the data we need to make that decision, to really understand, why am I building this? Is this truly going to help people? Because I believe that is the really key element to building a product that is going to be truly successful, truly exciting, and have the elements of people leaning into it, people sharing it, people talking about it. Now, the next thing that comes up, and surprisingly, a lot of people don't count the cost. And the reason why I think a lot of people don't count the cost is because there is a lot of money and investment available, and it's difficult to count the cost. There's a lot of unknowns that we really can't predict per se. But the thing is that there are a lot of things that we can predict. And so counting the costs is really about making sure that I'm looking at all the different aspects. Obviously, like you have the cost of teams and development and stuff like that. One of the things that always was a hangover for me early on in my career was underestimating how much marketing was going to need to happen. Another thing that was a total underestimation for myself when I first set out to develop a product was the support side. When you're new to innovation, you're new to product development, whether it be software or hardware, it's easy to underestimate the support. I remember there was a company I had hired before I created my own software development company, and they gave me a quote, they gave me a proposal, and I thought, okay, great, this is going to cost $20,000, right? And of course, $6 million later, we have a product. But at the end of the day, that's because I had underestimated some of those pieces. Another friend of mine, Maria, who's also a product owner, she actually is somebody that innately is more focused on the solving the problem, right? And the why behind it. But what she's not as good at, and historically I've had the same issues, is counting that cost. And it's only from going through this process of, and sometimes pain, or learning from someone else, or learning from different things like today, that we can try to at least mitigate or minimize how much that cost component is going to weigh us down. But if we don't look at that, and historically, and I talk about this in my books, there's 10 steps. And the first step is asking myself, why am I here? Now, the second step is looking at the cost. And if the cost outweighs the why, right, or my purpose and passion to do it, then I have to keep going back to the drawing board until the why is worth the cost. But not looking at the cost is not the answer. So this is something I think is just wildly important with all aspects of what we do. Now, looking at evolving trends, because we did talk about what are the evolving trends. So as a software developer myself, and still working with a lot of different projects, I am really focused on 3 evolving trends. Now, these are broad trends because I know there's a wide variety of audiences today and a lot of different people from different types of industries. But at the end of the day, I think there's 3, and some of these were already touched upon, but I think it's important that we identify those specifically for 2023. So, now that Agile and DevOps is no longer a buzzword, I think that becoming mainstream is so important as we really use these methodologies, because the faster time to market is critical, especially as a lot of us are just starting to wrap our brains around this mind-blown moment that we are all experiencing with ChatGPT. I find myself asking ChatGPT all kinds of crazy questions late at night that you would normally probably ask a priest. But it's interesting how it's changing the way that we're all interacting, and it's going to happen faster than ever before. And I think the important part for us is that we have to have our systems, our products, our teams, and our architecture at a place where we can absolutely build great quality software, but be able to pivot and go faster to market. The other piece, obviously, is the cloud native architecture. This approach allows the organization, obviously, to build, deploy, and run the applications in the cloud environment. I think from a scalability standpoint, that's another thing that I learned the hard way, is that I was really, our team and myself, we're really great at building prototypes. And we could build a product that we could show at a presentation, or we could demo, and it was really exciting. But there's so many different aspects that were hard to preempt that today we can by starting with the end in mind, right? With this type of architecture. And the last and obvious is the artificial intelligence and machine learning. I think a lot of us have been looking at that as a very, future facing endeavor. And as of today in 2023, it's no longer this thing out in the future. It's something that every single piece of technology will use this year. And that's a really fascinating thing, because previously it was like, oh, how do we get the chat to respond better and have less people looking at it? And that was how we were going to use artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of different applications. But now that it's become accessible, it's critical that we all grab that. And it's critical that we incorporate that in real time. So whether I can see the future is not as important as the fact that currently it's in the present. And so I have to continue to challenge myself on that. Now, there's a couple timeless trends that I would, be remiss if I didn't mention that I think are absolutely important. And it's these trends. There's three of them that I really focus on as a priority. These trends are the trends that are easily forgotten. One thing I've learned in the last 2 decades and writing my books is that it's easy and possible to go my whole life without ever asking the question, why? I can actually live and survive by just asking what, how, where, to what extent, but I can't actually survive by never asking the question why. But why is what gives us a deeper meaning. It's what allows for us to feel like what we're doing has purpose. At the end of the day, these are some of the things that I've found with product development specifically that it's easy to lose sight of. The first, of course, is design. So at the beginning of a project, when we're just conceptualizing what it might be, it's easy to have grandiose ideas of design, but keeping design in the day-to-day focal point, right? That's the stuff that makes all of the greatest products we've ever seen be so successful and be such a huge part of so many humans' lives, right? So the design part has to remain every day a part of something that I'm looking at through a lens. Am I still prioritizing design? Because the fact is, from a features and functionality standpoint and just making it work, as we said earlier, it's easy to get lost in that part. But now more than ever, when so many things are automatic, there's so many things like where code can build itself and we have the AI, design from an artistic human standpoint is going to matter more than ever, I believe, as we progress into more and more fabulous AI. The next is obviously the user experience. It's got to be intuitively easy to use. I'll never forget the first time I grabbed the original iPhone. I was shocked at how easy it was to learn. And it was one of the first times I'd ever picked something up and didn't need a manual. And I think that's what we have to challenge ourselves is making sure that the user experience is a priority. Again, we can get so lost in the features, so lost in the functionality that we sometimes forget what it's like to be on the other side of it. And it's easier said than done, right? From a user standpoint, that's so easy for a user to complain about what it's not doing, and how they want it to do all these things, not realizing how much has gone into getting it to just do the basic thing that it is doing. So it doesn't change the fact that if we want to build great products in 2023, we cannot lose sight of the user experience. And the last piece is obviously innovation. So the innovation, I see that, and this is what I looked like as a kid. I was always trying to invent things. And as a kid, you don't have any concept of the fact that, like, what it would take to do it, what the cost would be, and how unrealistic my hoverboard, my time machine, the machine that was going to, my jetpacks and the machine that was going to go to the center of the earth, until I figured out it's actually lava. All of those things are what as a child we aren't really in touch with. But I believe that the true innovation inside of each of us can come from bringing a little bit of that back into our lives. It's easy to get critical of our situation. It's easy to feel really beat down because, we've had missteps, we've burned money, we've burned bridges, we've had failed launches. And so there's a lot of things that have kind of caused a rejection that makes us think, well, that's just a childish thing. But the truth is, and many, many studies show it, that a child truly believes that they are creative when they are young and that they can do anything. And there's a part of that we lose as an adult that I think is important to bring back. And when it comes to product development, it's about challenging ourselves to continuing to push forward to innovate something that does not exist, right? Some people call it blue sky, some people call it different things. But at the end of the day, we must continue to challenge ourselves on a daily basis, no matter how bogged down we are in the granular how close we are to the product. We must continue to look at those three things: design, user experience, and innovation as it relates to whatever product we are and whatever year we're in, because these are the three pieces that are evergreen, that are timeless, that will always be there no matter what 2023's trends are. So I want to challenge everyone that's on here as we conclude to really ask ourselves, how can my product multiply my ability to help others? And helping others can be so many different things. It can be environmental, it can be helping people get jobs, it can be a large problem, or it can just be a small problem. It might just help in one-to-one individuals. But at the end of the day, the primary north must be, how does it help others? And I think that all of us, as we dig down and really ask ourselves, why am I here? Why am I building this product? What we'll find is that the products that last are the ones that truly help others, that don't even barely require a sales pitch. And they're so intuitive and designed so well that they don't even require a demo. So these are the things that I think are critical in today's world. And as we go through 2023 in product development, are going to be things that I know for myself, I'm going to keep as my north, and I hope that you will too. So again, thank you so much for letting me share. That's the end of my presentation.